Gospel text for this morning comes from the Gospel according to John in the 20th chapter. Please stand as you are able for the reading of the Gospel. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." Then Peter and the other disciple set out and went toward the tomb, the two of them running together, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent down to look in and saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb. He saw the linen wrappings lying there, and the cloth that had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen wrappings, but rolled up in a place by itself. Then the other disciple, who reached the tomb first, also went in, and he saw and believed. For as yet they did not understand the scripture, that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples returned to their homes. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. As she wept, she bent over and looked into the tomb. And then she saw two angels in white sitting where the body of Jesus had been lying, one at the head and the other at the feet. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." When she said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for?" Supposing to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you've carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said to her, "Do not hold me, because I have not yet ascended to the Father, but go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to the Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and she told them that he had said these things to her. This is the wisdom of the Lord. You may be seated. Ever notice how people really need to be recognized? "Hey, that's me over there in the picture. Hey, how do you like my car?" We need to be recognized. I think that people get on TV to be recognized. You know that show of is it Maury Povich? I think that's the one where they get a woman on and they don't know the paternity of the woman, and there are two guys and they're wrestling it out and they're shouting at each other, and finally it's determined that he's the father, and he says, "Yay, look at me." And people will do outlandish things to be seen on the internet. Have you ever gone through Reddit? Oh my Lord. Here I am. Look at me. Facebook is a perfect tool for an attention seeker. There's a generalized anxiety in our culture about not being known, not being seen. 3 generations from now, everybody will forget me. I don't want to be forgotten. I've shared with you that Aaron works with junior high kids at some of the behavioral kids. And after they took the masks off, the kids didn't know that Aaron had this full beard. And so they were after him for that. And one of them said, "You really look stupid, Mr. Clark." Are you trying to be a woodsman or something? Now, the truth is, that sounds like an insult. It's not. What he's really saying is, look at me, Mr. Clark. I'm here. I believe a lot of people commit crimes just because they want to be seen. Can you believe that? There's a lonely dynamic in our narcissistic culture. People want to be recognized but have little time to recognize others. It's like a conversation where everybody is thinking about what they're going to say next and nobody's listening to each other. And it seems to me that it's becoming pretty obvious that people go into politics to be known. Did you see the confirmation hearings for Ketanji Brown Jackson? Who was the person who was focused on? It wasn't her. Particularly was moved in a particularly good way by somebody named Ted Cruz, who said a lot of things that were not too nice and went immediately to his Twitter feed to find out if anybody liked him. Think of it. The majority of people are driven by a need to be recognized. It creates an atmosphere of loneliness. In the midst of wanting to be known, and we hear sometimes a casual response from somebody, we begin to know it for what it is, and it's indifference. I also believe that many who went to storm the Capitol on January 6th were intent on being seen. Remember, one woman actually said, "We're here for the coup, we're storming the Capitol." And I said, "That'll get you arrested." I think most of what Donald Trump does is to be recognized. And I think Putin has done what he's doing because he feels Russia has not gotten enough attention. And neither has he. He wants to write his name in history. The stereotype of Americans in Japan is that we are open and friendly, sometimes a little loud and a little assertive, but they like the openness. Japanese want to emulate Americans. They want to come here. They can be anybody they want to. They become Jeff Bezos. At least they have the opportunity. And women say, you know, in America they can be themselves and don't have to always do what their husbands tell them. I get it. But do they see the mood of loneliness? Who really cares? I was taken aback when I was in Liberty Tax. Spent some time there this week. And the receptionist asked a man there about his marital status, and he took a while. He had a blank face, and he says, "Well, my wife is deceased." He pulled out his phone. "Here, you see? My wife is deceased. Do you see me? Do you love me?" The conundrum of no one being satisfied, everybody feeling some anxiety, creates depression in our world. There's a lot of depression in our world. One time a psychiatrist told me that people who are depressed are actually more reasonable than the optimists. The optimists are blind. And the truth is, it's very difficult to recognize a person. People are complex, made up of webs of experiences and relationships over time, stories, ideas, wounds. It takes time and effort to really know another person. And most of the time, we're too busy. We have a culture that focuses on speed and growth. When you're moving fast and you want to grow, you're not going to have time to hear the stories of other people. And we are spiritually poor as a result. And it becomes a rare thing that a person becomes open and honest with another. We see each other less face to face. The mediums that we have are not good for growing relationships. They're better for hiding and self-aggrandizing. It becomes rare when a person feels that he or she can share their suffering. That's the hardest thing, to recognize another person's suffering. Who wants that? We're optimists, aren't we? One is supposed to deal with one's own suffering so as not to burden other people. We're not only optimists, we're self-reliant optimists. The person suffering is in a real bind, wanting to be recognized but not wanting to bother people, being reticent to do so. It's like a virus. It's hard. When Mother Teresa came to America, she commented that the American ailment or pandemic is loneliness. Loneliness. Some of our greater issues and problems are related to loneliness and the need to be recognized. Those children in the school are wanting to be recognized partly because they don't get recognized at home. The loneliness brings suicide, drug abuse, failed marriages, abandoned children. In a world in which it is vital to be seen and known, so many people suffer privately. And that's an invitation for opioids. Every time I read John's account of the tomb and the interchange between Jesus and Mary, I see this dynamic of recognition. Remember, she didn't know who he was. He was the gardener. She questions him about where he has taken Jesus. She's so grief-filled. She's just utterly isolated and alone, lost and unknown. And Jesus looks at her and says her name. And she then recognizes him and recognizes that he fully recognizes her completely. All that she has experienced, everything she's loved and lost, is held fast by God. Nothing lost, nothing forgotten, nothing unknown in God. By saying her name, Jesus brought her back to life. I would introduce a new word for what I think that was, and that was he eternalized her. Not in a chronological sense, but in a sense that who she was is profoundly and deeply known and forever. In the resurrection of Jesus Christ, we are all reborn anew from above, for we are mysteriously recognized, found, loved, and resurrected in God. And God says our name. It's a simple little practice you can try sometime. Be like Mary, and when you're full of grief and anxiety, imagine God saying to you your name. I see you. I know what you're going through. I recognize you. I value you. As hard as it may seem, I love you. You can spend all kinds of energy trying to acquire this feeling elsewhere. We can make a name for ourselves, get our name on a campus building, discover a comment, or become a politician. That'll do. We can crowd people around us when we feel lonely, but the loneliness in the crowd is the worst. We can fill our time with technology. I see people so attached to their phones, it looks like a part of themselves. We can create an avatar online and be somebody else. We can become so busy not to allow any human touch. We can get lost in things like sex and gambling and addiction, or sports. We can resent the world for not recognizing this as we should. This is those children. I try to manipulate others and seek revenge. And none of these things that we contrive of will help us to be known. We have been given in the resurrection of Jesus Christ a recognized life. It's a done deal. We don't have to earn it or pay for it. We just have to have the strength and the insight to accept it and let go of our need and dependence on being recognized by others. In a recognized life, I can feel the tug of loneliness, but know that I am loved. In a recognized life, I don't have to make a name for myself because God already knows my name. In a recognized life, I don't have to worry about feeling known. I am known. In a recognized life, I can experience solitude and don't need to surround myself with people. In a recognized life, I don't have to keep busy so as to feel like my life is worth something because God has already told me my life is worth plenty. In a recognized life, I do not have to fear death as I rejoice in the knowledge that God is with me no matter what. In a recognized life, I can go back to my high school reunion and not give a whatever about what they think of me because I'm already known. In a recognized life, I can fill a role in the world without feeling victimized by it and know that what I do has credit because God has already given me that credit. Most importantly, in a recognized life, I become free of myself and free, therefore, to become an agent of God's recognition in the world. Most of you know that we just passed through another anniversary of Kenneth's death. On Facebook, I asked just for people to offer comments about him, and one of his friends said, "He was the one who saw more of me than I saw in myself." A teacher commented in how he gave attention to others, how he related to his peers with interest, respect, and compassion. Another friend wrote, after calling the attention to how Kenneth was kind, said, "I believe it takes such a loving soul to have the capacity to care for truly everyone." Kenneth was gifted with recognizing people. In an odd reversal, he was the one who showed me about this and how important it is. Those who knew Kenneth will know this. He collected people. When I was young, I collected rocks and baseball cards. I have inherited my father's stamp collection. I think bucket lists are a kind of collection, but I was never instilled that I could collect people, collect their stories, and how beneficial that would be. And isn't that what we're called to do? To collect people, embrace them in the way of recognition. Knowing that in Christ we are all recognized by God. We don't need to yearn for others to prove that to us. We know that because God recognizes us, we don't have to depend on whether people like us or not. Because God has already done that. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. You don't start out by wanting to know somebody completely. It takes a lot of time to do that. So you start out with the simple things. For example, back at Liberty Tax, I was there for a while. I got bored, and in the process, I found out that the receptionist is from Oak Harbor. She really likes ramen, and her favorite show is Friends. And of course, we talked about which of the Friends were the best. Ross, really? Come on. The CPA I discovered was half Korean, didn't look it. Totally white-faced. Would never have known that. Maybe it's because the other half is Danish. His name is Lars. Lars Pak. I got to hear the story of his father leaving North Korea, finding his way to New York. He prefers Seinfeld. He talked about his son a lot. Blessed Easter to all of you.